The fate of Nyamira Governor Amos Nyaribo now rests with the Senate following his impeachment by 23 MCAs out of the 31 total MCAs who attended the county assembly proceedings on Tuesday.
This is the third time we have come back to this same house to beseech the members of this house to crack the whip and send the governor home because he has failed to live up to the expectations of the people of Nyamira.
Report on the removal of His Excellency Honorable Kimomi Nyaribo, the Governor of Nyamira County, from office by way of impeachment has now carried the day.
Tabled by Bonya Matuta MCA, the impeachment motion cites, among other claims, abuse of office, violation of legal procedures in running affairs of the Nyamira County government, and irregular appointments. These now impeach him on claims of mismanagement and nepotism. The second was in September 2024. The motion didn't see the light of the day after it failed to garner two-thirds threshold.
But history will judge you harshly. The facts are on the table. We do not need to bang tables so that we can prove this. We have done our best, and may God be our judge.
It's not every violation or breach of the Constitution that can lead to the removal of a governor or deputy governor. Only a grave violation can lead to the removal. It must be substantial. None of this has been substantial. It must be serious. None of these are serious.
Speaker of the Nyamira County Assembly is now expected to transmit the motion to the Senate for debate and determination.
MCS wamefanya kazi mzuri sana kutoa huyu mzee Nyaribo aende nyumbani. Huyu mzee amekula vitu hapa Nyamira mbaya sana. Huyu mzee amefuta watu Nyamira mbaya sana. Kwa hivyo leo tunaambia MCA wa Nyamira, thanks for the work you have done.
Lakini hii muda imekuwa kidogo sana, hata kama governor mwingine akiingia huyo Gesami, sioni kama ataweza fanya kazi hii mwaka mmoja na miezi 3 imebaki.
Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, is tonight putting on a brave face, assuring residents in areas set to hold by elections this Thursday that the exercise will be free, fair and credible. This comes amid a flurry of accusations and counter-accusations from rival camps, each alleging elaborate rigging schemes ahead of the polls. Here is that report.
North, the IEBC insists it will deliver a transparent election, seeking to allay fears of malpractice. Constituency Returning Officer John Kenywa says preparations are complete, with both strategic and non-strategic materials ready for disbursement on Wednesday.
There are mechanisms which have been put in place, including the Commission has provided experts in IT who are supporting us in the Taring Center. Actually, whatever is going on is the preparation for the same. So we can assure you the machines will work.
Amid protests by the Democratic Party, whose candidate Newton Karis is among the contenders, the IEBC has confirmed the 2022 certified register will be used in the mini polls.
The Commission has ensured that everything, all the materials required are provided for, including the ballot papers, which is the strategic materials, and the necessary, the KIEMS, that is the Kenya Integrated Electoral Management System equipment.
In Magarini, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has vowed that the opposition will keenly monitor the by-elections in Anbere. He accused unnamed state agents of plotting to rig the vote.
Polisi, jukumu lenu wakati kama huu ni kuhakikisha usalama wa wananchi. Kama mwananchi atatoka kwake nyumbani, akisha malizana na hizi kioski hizi zinaletwa, unga usiku, nini yote hiyo, aende kwa utaratibu, aende apige kura yake.
In Malava, Kakamega County, DAPK candidate Seth Panyaku has raised alarm over alleged voter bribery, accusing the UDA campaign team of enticing residents just a day before the polls.
kama watakuja na hizo pesa, vile tumekuwa tukiwaambia tu, nyinyi chukueni pesa. Kitu ambacho hamstahili kufanya ni kumpa mtu kitambulisho yako au namba ya kitambulisho chako.
However, UDA candidate David Ndakwa dismissed the claims as propaganda aimed at tarnishing the party's image.
Aende kwa IBC apeleke evidence, aende kwa polisi apeleke evidence. Me, I'm not accusing anybody. I've not even accused them. Me, I'm ready for election. I'm ready to face them, and I've been facing them. Hata mimi sijawataja kwa kampeni yangu.
In Banisa constituency, Mandera County, IEBC Commissioner Hassan Nur Hassan says all is set for a smooth by-election. Hassan, who visited the area this afternoon to oversee readiness and ensure that all systems are in place for polling day, expressed satisfaction with the preparations, highlighting that recruitment and training of polling staff have been completed.
The kits have all been delivered, all vehicles have been procured for the purpose of delivery of materials to polling stations. All security organs have all been fully sensitized.
Meanwhile, preparations for the Lake Zone and Nanam Ward by-elections in Turkana County are complete. County Elections Manager Amos Obonyo has confirmed that voting equipment has been dispatched to polling stations and all officials have undergone training.
In Lake Zone Ward, we are having 36 polling stations. And in all those 36 polling stations, we have trained enough officers who are going to man their electoral activities in those areas.
And those skimmed kits have been enabled by given extra batteries. We have employed charging clerks. We also have extra kits in case some of those KIMS kits develop any technical issues.
Security has also been reinforced across Turkana ahead of Thursday's exercise. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
From by-elections to bilateral ties, President William Ruto has urged Africa's development partners to support the continent's industrial growth instead of fostering a culture of dependency. Speaking at the 7th African European Union Summit in Luanda, Angola on Tuesday, the president called on African states and their partners to move from extractive to productive relationships, from exporting raw materials to exporting innovation and finished goods.
President Ruto noted that Africa's partnership have, for far too long, been shaped by charity, pointing out that arms provide no solution to the continent's challenges. President Ruto appealed for closer collaboration with the European Union, built on a mutually beneficial relationship that draws on each other's strength. The head of state noted that Europe holds enormous capital, modern technology and mature institutions, while Africa has vast natural resources, youthful energy and a large and growing market.
Our continents are bound by geography and destiny. Europe faces a demographic winter. Africa is in the bloom of youth. Europe holds enormous capital, modern technology, and mature institutions.
Ruto said Africa was offering genuine partnership and opportunity at the summit and was ready to shape a shared future as an equal rather than remain tied to the past. He emphasized that to maximize cooperation with the European Union, Africa must deepen regional economic integration, beginning with the African Continental Free Trade Area, a single market of 1.4 billion people.
Africa asks only for fairness, for a seat at the table, not a place at the menu, for a partnership grounded not in pity, but in parity. The time has come to move from promise to progress and from frameworks to follow-throughs. Let Luanda mark a turning point where we stand together for multilateralism, where we advance regional integration, where we act on climate, where migration becomes opportunity, and where digitalization becomes inclusion, and where equality becomes the foundation of our future.
Additionally, he encouraged the EU to work with Africa to advance digital transformation, expand opportunities, strengthen cooperation on climate adaptation, and support fair and managed labor mobility.
We must act together on climate adaptation urgently and justly. Africa contributes less than 4% of global emissions, yet we pay the highest price. Let us make climate finance accessible, predictable, and fair. A part of Africa's climate resilience is not a gift. It is an investment in both Africa's and Europe's own security and an investment in humanity's survival.
Ruto noted that digitalization was a major equalizer, pointing out that Africa is not waiting for technology to arrive. Instead, it is inventing its own.
Let us embrace digitalization as the great equalizer of our time. Africa is not waiting for technology to arrive. It is inventing its own. From Kigali through Nairobi to Lagos, digital entrepreneurs are reshaping finance, agriculture, and education.
President Ruto warned that illicit financial flows continue to undermine African countries' effort to mobilize the resources needed to fund essential public service, saying addressing those problems, including asset return and recovery under existing mechanism, requires stronger action.
Back home, Beryl Odinga, the younger sister of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, is dead. Beryl passed away on Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 at Nairobi West Hospital.
Kisumu County Senator Oburu Odinga and his younger sister, Kisumu County Woman Representative in the National Assembly Ruth Odinga, confirmed that their sister Beryl Odinga died in Nairobi West Hospital.
Uliniwacha mi bila fahamu kuwa ni yako zamu, angalau ungeniambia eti unakamu nitulize hamu wangu wa dhati.
In a statement, the family said they are deeply saddened by her demise and the immense void she had left in their lives. The late Beryl was a distinguished professional who pursued dual careers as a teacher and a lawyer. She will be remembered for her immense contributions to the society through her public service roles in Kenya and abroad. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen and Senate Speaker Amason Kingi are among leaders who have sent messages of condolences to the Odinga family. Her demise follows that of her elder brother, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. The late Beryl is survived by her 3 children, Ami Auma, Chizi, and Taurai.
Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye.
Michael Mwandiga for Prime Edition.
Salimu Maulana, tutaonana.
It's 11 minutes past the top of the hour. We are taking our first commercial break. We'll be back with more with the detail and clarity you deserve. Stay with us.
You don't deserve my support. But maybe that has been my mistake all this time.
I came here to tell you that you have all of my support. You can count on me for anything, Nora.
I'm not going to let you keep on bothering me this way. What
I came here to tell you that Alonso is at the St. Helena Hospital.
Please.
Did you hear me?
While he was talking, he put his hand on his chest.
Lea Premium Flour, nurturing the world. Available in a store near you.
Welcome back to Prime Edition, our socials at KBC Channel 1 on X, Facebook and YouTube. To other developments tonight, an international assessment has revealed alarming gaps in foundational learning among children across 12 countries, including Kenya. The findings were released today in Nairobi at the Evidence for Action Forum hosted by the People's Action for Learning PAL Network. Our reporter Aaron Marie attended the forum and now reports.
A new global report unveiled has confirmed what many education stakeholders have long feared. Millions of children across the global south are attending school but not learning.
We must have the teachers that are trained well to teach children to learn. We must have the infrastructure. We must ensure that we invest a lot in the foundational learning.
The PAL Network's latest International Common Assessment of Numeracy and Reading, known as ICAN and ICAR, paint a sobering picture of a foundational learning across 12 countries.
And what it shows to us is some very significant trends, but more importantly, it shows to us nationally representative sample from all these countries which can be reported for SDG 4.1.1a.
According to the assessment, covering nearly 90,000 children aged 5 to 610, fewer than 4 in 10 can read with comprehension or solve basic math problem by the age of 10.
It now means that we have to rethink on the level of the way in which we train teachers to handle those levels so that our children can be able to learn early enough and comprehend. Even when they are reading simple stories, they can be able to comprehend and even give an account of what they have read.
Even more worrying, the report shows that by grade 9, many children still cannot perform tasks expected at the early primary level, despite high enrollment rates where nearly 9 out of 10 children are in school.
So the challenge is on all the stakeholders that we should be able to ensure that the basic requirements that are needed to make a child be able to read and do simple mathematics are found.
The two-day Evidence for Action Forum brought together education partners, all seeking solutions to the escalating learning crisis.
We have also, as an organization, Zizi Afrique, been working with the ministry to figure out how mathematics as an issue could be addressed, and that's addressing it at the stem, at the root, which is the foundational numeracy.
The assessment also reveals widening inequalities driven by the digital divide.
As Kenyans, we have that potential now to rise up so that we move from where we are at 40% to where Mexico is at 83%, and that's a big challenge. And when you see countries like Mexico doing it, then it means also Kenya, we can do it.
One notable positive finding is gender parity, where no significant difference was found between boys and girls in reading and numeracy outcomes.
And this downgrading has to be upgraded. And we hope that the data that it shows so powerfully, so inclusively, and through partnerships with the government is one that will be formally acknowledged.
As PAL Network pushes ahead with its 2025-2030 strategy, its goal is to ensure that by 2030, citizen-led assessment inform education decision in at least 15 countries, helping to shift system towards better quality learning for all children.
This is our contribution to the world, to produce evidence using citizens to inform different levels of stakeholders, to inform them about the problem that we have, and to make sure that we all understand that it's a huge problem, and to engage different people, different stakeholders to find the solutions for the problem.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Aaron Marie.
Governments have been challenged to move from advocacy to action in implementing the Safe Schools Declaration that will guarantee the safety of children and teachers in schools. According to the United Nations Committee on the Rights of Children, over 41,000 schools have been completely closed down this year alone due to conflicts and violence, hence risking the future of the young learners. Opening the 5th International Conference on the Safe Schools Declaration in Nairobi, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi noted that the integration of Safe Schools Declaration in the competency-based education curriculum is underway.
Attacks on schools over the past 5 years that include killing and abduction of teachers and students, airstrikes on schools, occupation of schools by armed groups, and sexual violence against students inside education facilities is on the rise.
Behind each of these numbers is a child whose dream has been shattered, a teacher whose commitment has been tested.
It is against this backdrop that children's rights champions drawn across the globe unanimously agreed on the need to prioritize the well-being and safety of children and teachers in schools.
Girls may be exposed to sexual violence, trafficking and child marriage, while boys are often at a heightened risk of recruitment into armed groups, forced labor, or other forms of exploitation.
During the 5th International Conference on the Safe Schools Declaration in Nairobi, 122 member states, including Kenya, adopted the Safe Schools Declaration.
These guidelines clearly articulate that educational facilities should not be used to support military operations, and the rights to education must be upheld.
We aim to keep the Safe Schools Declaration high on the global agenda and help governments translate commitments into concrete changes on the ground.
The clarion call was for governments to move from political commitments to tangible action.
Under the weight of conflict, the costs ripple far beyond the classroom. Labor markets shrink, cross-border trade declines, and regional integration efforts falter.
As part of supporting the movement, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi noted that Kenya is already implementing the Safe School Declaration.
The government is enhancing teacher preparedness for crisis situations, strengthening psychosocial support, and ensuring continued access to learning in conflict-affected areas.
And action is only meaningful if it safeguards the future of our children.
Mudavadi also observed that artificial intelligence and digital platforms have opened new pathways for misinformation, cyberbullying, radicalization, and exploitation, particularly among learners.
Technology has now come with its challenges. As we embrace it, how do we make sure that our schools are safe?
As this unfolds, stakeholders decried budget cuts on education sector.
The funding crisis is truly acute. An estimated 2 million children in humanitarian setting risk being out of school by the end of 2026.
Opito Chemtai for Prime Edition.
On to cybercrime updates. Internal Security Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo has warned that the government is facing increased cybersecurity threats, making Kenya among African nations that are losing more than $4 billion every year to cybercrime. Speaking in Nairobi County on Tuesday during the opening of the 3rd African Forum on Cybercrime and Electronic Evidence, Dr. Omolo called for stronger cross-border cooperation and greater involvement in young people in advancing cyber safety. Joseph Wahungu compiled this report.
Hundreds of global cybercrime experts and criminal justice actors from 35 nations are convening in Nairobi for a 3-day African Forum on Cybercrime and Electronic Evidence. Internal Security Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo of the conference says Kenya's rapid digital growth has exposed government platforms to increased sophisticated cyber attacks.
Last week, for almost half a day, if you remember, we had denial of services across various ministries. 2 years ago, for almost 48 hours, there was a similar challenge with access to the e-citizen portal. And we are constantly looking at ways in which we minimize some of these threats.
Dr. Omolo called for enhanced collaboration among different nations in tackling the cyber threats, warning that the challenge continues to claim billions of revenue annually in Africa.
Last year alone, we were losing in excess of 40 billion US dollars. So it's a good and perfect opportunity so that as we embrace technology, as it makes our work easier, there are also elements who use the same technology
to commit crime.
The PS also highlighted the critical role of Africa's youth in shaping digital safety, warning that young people risk identity theft, misinformation and data exploitation. Speaking at the conference, Supreme Court Judge Dr. Smokin Wanjala sustained judicial training to effectively handle complex cyber-related offences.
Unless judges are properly equipped, they are unlikely to render justice in the manner expected because of the complexity of the crimes we are talking about here. And these are things that people are never prepared for at their schools of law.
So I could not agree more with you on what you said about the threats and the challenges that we are facing and the need for capacity building for criminal justice authorities. That's why we are organizing such events.
Joseph Ohungu for Prime Edition.
On to Health Watch, health experts say Africa must urgently invest in stronger diagnostic systems if the continent is to slow down the rising threat of antimicrobial resistance. Speaking at the second convention on diagnostics, African Society for Laboratory Medicine Chief Executive Officer Nobiel Ndlovu warned that AMR has already become a silent pandemic with weak diagnostic capacity, poor surveillance, and limited funding, placing millions at risk. Globally, 700,000 people die every year due to drug-resistant infections, with sub-Saharan Africa accounting for more than 200,000 deaths and Kenya losing over 8,000 people annually. Here is that report.
The three-day convention being held in Nairobi beginning Tuesday under the theme Accelerating Diagnostics, Innovation and Collaboration to Combat Antimicrobial Resistance and Advance Health Security in Africa is bringing together experts in the health sector, policymakers and key stakeholders to confront what they describe as a silent, fast-spreading pandemic.
So the main aim of this meeting really is to showcase some of the diagnostic innovations and advances that we can use to combat AMR. We need diagnostics, we need the labs, we need to test, we need to understand the pathogens that we are dealing with. And for us to understand the resistance that is out there in the communities and also to understand which drugs, which medications is working or which medication is not working. We need the lab to be at the center of supporting even health service delivery.
The gathering comes at a time when poor access to reliable diagnostics continues to push patients towards self-diagnosis, over-the-counter treatment, and some clinicians prescribing medication without laboratory confirmation, practices that experts warn are fueling drug resistance across the continent.
In Kenya, for example, we lose about 8,000 people to antimicrobial resistance-related complications per year. That is a huge burden.
Moreover, sub-Saharan Africa carries the highest global burden of AMR-related deaths at 200,000 annually, a reality experts say could reverse advances made in treating diseases such as tuberculosis.
One major challenge why the policy is not fully implemented as we expected is that there has not been significant funding to support program implementation.
But even as the continent pushes for stronger diagnostics, funding still remains a perennial challenge.
At national level, the parliament or legislature should continue to appropriate money for laboratories. As we know, laboratories form the bedrock of healthcare in our countries. At regional level, where we can, these countries should negotiate for preferred pricing for some of the reagents and consumables that are not manufactured locally to ensure that we get value for money.
ASLM reports that 700,000 people die globally each year due to AMR. The Nairobi Convention aims to accelerate diagnostic innovation, strengthen laboratory networks, and align continental strategies to curb drug resistance and protect communities. Doreen Arange for Prime Edition.
Let's now take you to the corridors of justice. Activist Nuru Maloba Okanga will know on January 20th, 2026, whether he has a case to answer in a cybercrime-related offense after the last prosecution witness gave his testimony Tuesday. While giving the direction, trial magistrate Rose Ndombi declined the defense request to compel the prosecution to bring the president to court to testify. Okanga is accused of circulating an inflammatory video online touching on President William Ruto, which he allegedly shared through platforms linked to him.
A digital forensic expert on Tuesday came under heavy scrutiny in a case where activist Noru Maloba Okanga is charged with false publications and cyber-related offenses.
Because the report was written on the date of, on June 11th, right? Mm-hmm. And so you wrote a report and then you were certified later. Okay?
Juma Said Mojirani testified that he analyzed only one video and not the entire data from the Okanga's accounts.
Your Honor, my main aim in this matter was the video, not the comments. That's why I played the whole video before this court. Yes. And I saved for you, and before this court, the whole video. That was part of my content. I only analyzed the video, but not the metadata in that account. Thank you.
During cross-examination, defense lawyers put him to task to explain his qualifications and report, highlighting inconsistencies in his certification dates, his inability to define the word inflammatory, among other issues.
So what, in the content of the video that you have played before the Honorable Court, do you find inflammatory? Yes, of course.
What do you find inflammatory? Tell the court so that we can now go back to questions.
Unless I play the video as I analyze it through the...
Then now the one that you're saying, you do not hold any certification from Celebrat or any other recognized forensic tool developer, do we?
I have.
You have. You don't have the document in court?
I did not. I just came out from the out country, so I was not prepared to come.
You slept in China?
No, I came. All my things are in my job.
Okanga is accused of circulating an inflammatory video online touching on President William Ruto, which he allegedly shared through platform linked to him, a move that his lawyers have disputed.
But at the time of preparing this report, you are not certified with ISACA.
From ISACA.
So you cannot rely on ISACA as part of the qualifications at the point of making this report. True or false?
You asked me of the certifications, so I had to give you my certifications.
Trial Magistrate Rose Ndombi directed that the links be included in the written submissions, with the ruling set for 20th January 2026.
I believe this will be a matter left for submissions for the court to make a determination to the civil. Therefore, the prosecution cannot be forced to call any other witness. The application to close the prosecution case is upheld.
Letua Debra for Prime Edition.
The Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Igonga, has dismissed growing calls to amend the Constitution to allow the DCI and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to take up prosecution powers, warning that such a shift would destabilize Kenya's justice system. Appearing before the Senate Committee on National Cohesion, Renson Igonga said recent public suggestions to empower investigative agencies with prosecutorial authority are misguided and threaten to interfere with the ODPP's constitutional mandates.
National Cohesion Integration Commission came before this committee and asked, even not this time, about a year ago, they wanted amendment of the law so that they can do the prosecution themselves.
The constitution of any country is the supreme law. There's no any other law that can go against the Constitution and will survive. Even the courts will not allow it. The powers to institute and prosecute have been vested in the DPP by virtue of Article 157 of the Constitution of this country, not by any act of parliament. So there's no way any investigative agency can come up and say they want prosecutorial powers. They can never get, unless we go back to the Kenyan public and tell them we now want to amend the Constitution. And we must get it very clear. Most of us who are here were there before our Constitution of 2010. They know why Kenyans said we want to delink prosecution from investigations. Most of you know why. And I don't think that aspect has changed. And you must understand that you cannot allow the same person to investigate you and prosecute you. You'll be in trouble.
Experts from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development IGAD region are calling upon the international partners to reconsider their decision of pulling away funds that were supporting humanitarian crises. This, they say, has not only led to budget cuts in critical sectors, but also loss of lives. The experts who are speaking during the Stock Tech meeting in Nairobi on the Nairobi Declaration called on members to invest in long-term strategies that will sustain their social economic developments.
We're going to identify persistent gaps and to also reaffirm our political will to go even further. It comes also at a very, very good time, which is marked by a reduction of UNHCR funding. And in this context, we have to examine perspectives, progress for the World Forum on Refugees.
They will be looking at where have we not performed so well and come up with informed strategies on improving. And more important is to come up with solutions to fill in the gap which is being left by drastic reduction in donor funding in the humanitarian space.
And also call upon the international community not to forsake especially the region, which is hosting quite a very big number of refugees, to be left alone.
We look forward to continue supporting the region. We have done so since 2019 officially with the platform, and moving forward we would love to focus on cities.
In business, 4 genetically modified food crops are ready for national trials and release after their concept was approved by the National Biosafety Authority. Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium Chair Richard Odwor says commercialization of maize, cassava, potato and sorghum are genetically modified varieties will go a long way in reducing the cost of production and increasing yields. Benson Rioba compiled this report.
Maize resistant to striga weed, cassava resistant to the brown disease, blight resistant potato and drought resistant sorghum are among the genetically modified crops that are set for national performance trials. Scientists say the GMO crops have undergone various tests, yielding positive results.
What our challenge really is that we have a lot of proof of concept and transgenic seeds that now need to leave the lab, which is the containment, to move into the confined field trials and eventually go into the national performing trials and then commercialize for the Kenya.
Genetically modified potato and cassava will reduce post-harvest losses by introducing genes with longer shelf life.
Pathway or that process of producing that secondary metabolite in cassava is what you slow down through the genome editing so that its production is not high enough, so that even in the presence of oxygen, it does not degenerate or discolor the cassava, and that way you are elongating the shelf life.
On the other hand, striga-resistant maize will reduce the cost of production as farmers will use less chemicals in maize production.
Most of the sprays are not effective, and the more we pump into the environment a lot of pesticides, the more we continue polluting our air, polluting our water, and polluting our soils.
Researchers are calling for more biotech funding and sensitization on the need to incorporate genetically modified foods into the country's food system.
Communication is actually very important. If it lags behind policy, it does not support policy decisions, then even the actions are delayed.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Away from agriculture, onto a report compiled by Felix Q, Safaricom's newly issued bond has been priced at 10 shillings and 40 cents with a minimum investment of 50,000 shillings. According to the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the offer that opened on Tuesday morning will close on the 5th of December 2025. The telco giant is seeking to raise 15 billion shillings with an option of expanding the offer to 40 billion shillings.
The 5-year note with fixed interest rates of 10.4% will fund Safaricom's portfolio of environmental projects, including energy-efficient network upgrades and lower-emission infrastructure. SBG Securities, Stanbic Bank Kenya and Standard Chartered Bank Kenya are the joint lead arrangers. Kenya's green bond market has been growing slowly since new regulations came into force in the year 2017. 2 years later, Econ Holdings issued the first green bond, raising 4.3 billion of eco-friendly student housing. The Safaricom bond is the biggest to have been floated on the NSE, coming hot on the heels of the East African Breweries bond, which was also issued this month. The first tranche of EABL's 20 billion Kenya shillings medium-term note program was oversubscribed by 52%, with East Africa Breweries chief Jane Karuku saying the oversubscription signals renewed trust in local blue-chip issuers and the company's growth agenda.
We've also seen some improved macroeconomic environment, and I think we need to be fair and give credit where it belongs. Some of this improvement, if you look at the exchange rate, always a pain. There is some stability and predictability there. Interest rates, again, may not like that, but we like the direction it's heading. There is some stability there.
This issuance reinforces our financial flexibility, supports the execution of our strategic priorities, and anchors our ambition for sustainable long-term growth across East Africa. It also reflects the agility and relentless focus of our management team.
Global corporate bond outstanding reached about $34 trillion. This underscores the centrality of corporate debt to global finance.
Mars Wrigley is investing 4.3 billion shillings in expanding its confectioneries production in Kenya over the next 3 years. Mars Wrigley Sub-Saharan Africa General Manager Ismail Bello says the company is keen on leveraging Kenya's strategic position to supply confectioneries in the Sub-Saharan African markets. Speaking during the launch of a new sugar-free gum production line in Athi River, Bello said moving production to Athi River helps the company to cut lead times, reduce reliance on European imports, and improve supply chain resilience across Africa and the Middle East.
This new investment positions our facility as a strategic regional supply hub for our businesses across Africa and the Middle East. Our sugar-free gum brands, be it Orbit or Extra, will now be produced locally, bringing world-class products closer to our consumers.
We hope, while this is an East African plant, this is the only country on the eastern seaboard that guarantees you global market access.
As Kenya works to grow its manufacturing, I will be encouraging, along with my team, companies, local and multinational, to invest not just in volume, but in quality and local capacity.
The government is rolling out favorable tax regimes and policies to support local vehicle assembling. Trade Principal Secretary Regina Ombam says the government is seeking to leverage on increasing automotive investments to generate employment opportunities. Speaking during the launch of the new Jeep and Citroën automotive brands, Ombam challenged financiers to tailor flexible financing, especially to electric vehicles customers, to drive its uptake.
It is this DNA, ladies and gentlemen, that will drive this expansion of our product and service portfolio, filling in gaps, offering viable alternatives, and carving out new niches in the Kenyan and East African automotive space.
Our reliance on imported parts has actually been a big hindrance to growth. And so as a government, key policies around automotive policy that really allows for duty remission schemes is actually a way of really helping us grow this industry to the level that we want.
Weak governance, fragmented regional tax administration, delays in harmonization of taxes and poor coordination continue to hinder trade and investment within the East African community. Speaking at the regional dialogue on domestic resource mobilization in the East African community, organized by Siatini, Uganda, Yala Member of Parliament George Odongo urged East African partner states to harmonize tax incentives and should position the bloc as a single investment destination.
For more than a decade, East African community partner states have been pushing for harmonization of economic and monetary policies. However, harmonization of the tax regime still appears a distant reality.
We seem to be, we are having a regional commitment, but when it comes to implementation, we are working in silos. So every partner state is looking at it within their own context.
Although the EAC has made some progress to achieve uniformity on customs, VAT and excise duties, particularly on some products, full alignment remains inconsistent as member states keep adjusting rates independently.
When we say we are implementing a regional commitment, we have seen that most of the partner states are notorious for stay of execution, stay of application. And this stay of application is not harmonized.
They say harmonization of tax regimes must be anchored on efficient state institutions to position the EAC as a single investment destination.
We are supposed to give the same conditions across the board. The same landscape should apply in all the partner states so that the decision for an investor to invest should not be on the basis of our taxes, should not be on the basis of some incentives.
The people who transact in gold is now $3 to $4 billion. We are not taxing them. There is a law to give us $200 minimum per kilo of gold they export. They are not even paying that, much as the law is there. And if that is where you'd be earning money, $200 per kilo, you will go and scavenge among so many taxpayers to raise it from the poor people. So what are we doing with the high net worth?
They said EAC member states should look inward to mobilize financing domestically, especially at a time when foreign aid is dwindling, cost of debt servicing is rising, and resources for climate action are increasingly constrained.
Family Bank Group has reported 3.6 billion shillings in net profit during the first 9 months of 2025, which represents a 55.8% year-on-year growth. The profit was driven by higher interest income. Here is that report as compiled by Sylvia Gatti.
Family Bank's total assets increased from 163.2 billion shillings to 202.6 billion shillings. This was mainly driven by higher net loans and advances to customers, which rose 10.1% to 103.7 billion shillings. From this, the lender booked 17.7 billion shillings in total interest income, powered by higher earnings on loans and advances, and government securities, which increased 11.9 billion shillings and 5.6 billion shillings, respectively. In addition, total non-interest income increased 14.4% to 3.8 billion shillings, powered by fees and commissions.
Over 92% of our transactions are happening digitally. We have invested heavily in our digital platforms, our mobile platforms, our internet banking, other payment solutions, collection solutions that we are giving to our customers, so that we can leave our physical branches just as service and sales centers.
Even though total interest expenses reduced 2.9% to 6.77 billion shillings, this was not enough to offset other expenses that saw the total operating expenses rising by a third to 10.24 billion shillings. This was mainly on account of higher staff costs after Family Bank opened a new branch in Kilifi and relocated its Ngara branch in Nairobi.
In June, year 2021, our balance sheet closed 100 billion mark. Today, we are looking at 202, meaning in 4 years, we've managed to double the size of Family Bank.
The increased lending came at the cost of gross non-performing loans, and advances increased from 14.7 billion shillings to 15.6 billion shillings. This prompted Family Bank to more than double the loan loss provision from 585.5 million shillings to 1.36 billion shillings.
Let's now take you to the coast. Engineers want the public-private partnership policy reviewed to ring-fence the participation of graduate engineers in all mega infrastructure projects. The Institution of Engineers of Kenya, President Shama Kiteme, says excluding young engineers from flagship national projects is worsening unemployment and weakening Kenya's long-term engineering capacity. Regina Manyara with the details.
Data from IEK and the Engineers Board of Kenya indicates that Kenya has over 18,000 registered graduate engineers, but fewer than 4,000 engineers certified by the Engineers Board of Kenya.
We actually need to develop this skills strategy so that we can tell ourselves what skills do we need into the 10, 20, 50 or 30-year horizon. So we'll be working closely. I think we have asked the ministry to establish a task force, and we hope this is going to shape the next generation of engineers.
IEK President Engineer Shama Kiteme says this imbalance is directly linked to limited opportunities for supervised industrial exposure, which graduates require before they can qualify as professional engineers.
We're the right people to say we are going to occupy the construction sector and literally run with the infrastructure in this country. We're the right people to challenge leadership positions and take them up so that we can define, we can engineer the future that we want.
To remedy this, IEK wants the Public-Private Partnership Act and its regulations amended to compel contractors to, in among others, recruit a minimum quota of graduate engineers as well as file compliance reports with the Engineers Board of Kenya during project execution. This to unlock job opportunities, accelerate professional registration, and enhance the overall quality of engineering practice in the country.
This is very important for us because then we have a very critical role to determine what the future holds.
Speaking during the ongoing 32nd Institution of Engineers Convention in Mombasa, speakers have also called for the expansion of the National Mentorship Program to adequately absorb the growing pool of graduates entering the market each year. Graduate engineers have also been tipped on emerging technologies like AI-enabled design tools and digital engineering platforms to ensure global competitiveness.
We must embrace multidisciplinary thinking. You must also be bold enough to build enterprises, confident enough to lead teams, curious to learn continuously, and brave enough to innovate beyond what already exists.
According to statistics and data, it indicates that graduate engineers outnumber professional engineers at least 1 to 4, a fact that the 32nd IEK Convention seeks to correct by bringing together various stakeholders, including industry players, to unlock training opportunities and thus create jobs among graduate engineers going forward. That is what took center stage on day one of the 32nd IEK Convention that is currently underway in Mombasa County. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
The government will construct 1,752 affordable housing units on approximately 6 acres of land at the Buxton area in Mombasa County, recovered by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in 2024. The repossession is part of the Commission's strategies in the fight against corruption, as it removes the benefit and reduces the motivation to engage in graft and illegal acquisitions of public property. EACC Chief Executive Officer Abdi Mohamud spoke Tuesday during a tour of recovered assets, where he affirmed EACC's commitment to scale up the war on graft and ensure stolen public assets are recovered and put into prudent use. Here is that report.
At approximately 6 acres, this parcel of land will soon be filled with 1,700 affordable housing units. It was recovered by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in 2024 from land grabbers who had seized it from the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. EACC Chief Executive Officer Abdi Mahmoud says they have scaled up asset recovery, warning individuals seeking to illegally acquire public assets.
So the Commission not only recovers assets for the sake of it, but recovers assets to ensure that the assets benefit the mwananchi at the end of the day.
At the Changamwe area, this approximately 1.7-acre piece of land worth 104 million shillings has also been recovered, paving way for its occupation by its original owners, the Kenya Airports Authority.
And now the property is a public property, and here we have the security manager of Kenya Airports Authority. Although they have not formally taken over, but as of now, this property is ready for occupation by the Kenya Airports Authority after recovery.
Other assets that have been recovered by the anti-graft body include 0.1300 hectares hived off a strip of road reserve in Nyali valued at 30 million shillings. Approximately 0.0873 hectares situated in Kizingo belonging to the Kenya Railways valued at 50 million shillings. And Mombasa, blocks XV1 1339 measuring 0.028 hectares and block XV1 measuring 0.0171 hectares valued at 12 and 14 million shillings respectively. Mahmoud is, however, decrying court cases backlog as an impediment to the success of asset recovery.
I think there are cases that are ongoing in the adjacent properties, so we don't want to comment. We only comment on cases that are concluded, not cases that are actively in court.
Earlier on, the EACC hosted its maiden youth dialogue at the Technical University of Mombasa under the theme Ethical Leadership for the Kenya We Want. The Commission plans to hold similar meetings in other counties to ensure the youth actively participate in the fight against corruption. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
In sports, Kenya's veteran deaf athlete David Kiptum Kipkogei clinched a silver medal in the men's marathon at the Tokyo 2025 Summer Deaf Olympics. Kipkogei crossed the finish line on the Tokyo Expressway in 2 hours, 17 minutes and 30 seconds, finishing behind Sweden's Otto Kingstedt, who won gold in 2 hours, 16 minutes and 10 seconds. Colombia's Jose Libado took bronze in 2 hours, 23 minutes and 50 seconds. In the women's marathon, Kenya missed out on a podium finish after Sarah Kimani and Grancy Kendagor were unable to complete the race. Overall, Kenya concluded the games with 15 medals, including 5 gold, 6 silver and 4 bronze. Kenya's Director of Sports, Jackson Indakwa, congratulated Team Kenya for their strong showing and reaffirmed the Ministry of Sports' commitment to supporting deaf athletes in future competitions.
Good one.
Medalista, Kenya, David Kipkogei Kiptum.
The Kenya University 10 Million Trees Marathon is set to make a major return next year as organizers confirm the 4th edition will take place on the 28th of March 2026 in Mtito Andei. According to the organizers, the event promises to be bigger, tougher and greener with an exciting lineup of competitions aimed at both elite athletes and local participants.
At the heart of the event is the 42-kilometer full marathon, where top runners will battle for a grand prize of 500,000 shillings. The race will feature both men and women's categories. Participants will also compete in a 21-kilometer race, a 10-kilometer local race, a 5-kilometer fun and run, and a 21 Black Mamba race designed exclusively for residents of Kibwezi East, reinforcing the marathon's commitment to uplifting homegrown talent.
Athletes who come down there to run will stand a better chance of having their exact times correctly recorded. So we will see more numbers come up. We are better than when we started. And I think our strength is that we pay the athletes on time.
For cycling, organizers have introduced the popular 42-kilometer mountain bike race, both tailored for riders ready to take on rugged terrain. The marathon continues to champion environmental sustainability, with thousands of trees expected to be planted as part of the 10 Million Trees initiative.
The initial years we've been doing some research, doing some species selection, getting to understand what is best for the region. And at this time, we have developed now the species that are specific in that region, that are doing well in that region. So now we are moving at a faster rate in terms of being able to green, because now we know what is suitable for which region.
Kenya University says preparations are already underway, and this year's edition is expected to attract record participation while reinforcing the region's homegrown reputation as a hub for athletics and conservation.
And on that note, we come to the end of Prime Edition. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. I am Muchuma Odim. Our sign language expert tonight is Caroline Njoroge. Do have a good night and a blessed day ahead.
For charity, dial *419 hash.
Nakuona. Kuja hivi sasa. Buddha. Siku umedial *419 hash. Shika. Yani hujui kwa option 3 kuna Pro Box. Pro Box. Usisahau kwa star 419 hash option 3 iko probox ya bahati, na ikikuangukia ufunguo utakufikia mahali popote ulipo. Usisahau.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Season ndio hii, na pia niko na watatu hapa ambao wako tayari kubishana na mimi kwa hii sanduku zangu 12. Mnasema aje? Mko fiti?
Yes.
Majina nani my dear?
Naitwa Rose.
Kutoka area gani?
Natoka Maziwa.
Maziwani. My dear, jina nani?
Olivia Kerubo.
Olivia Kerubo, kutoka area gani?
From Narco County.
Acha tusikie watatu. Majina nani my dear?
Majina naitwa Jeanette Nyongesa.
Nyongesa amekujia nini?
Kukuchia pesa.
Hapa ndani nimeweka pilao sinia, hapa ndani nimewekea TV 32